Hey guys, so in September 2021, I got tingling in my feet after speaking at a personal development event. And I was unable to walk and was diagnosed with a condition called Guillain-Barré syndrome, where the immune system attacks the nerves. I don't know what stage of recovery you're in right now, but as an entrepreneur, what I do know is that it's extremely painful when you've had a certain life, when you've made a certain amount of money, and you want to get back on track to being your best after a health crisis. And so in this video, I want to share with you really the four things that I had identified that I did that made a big difference for me in my recovery, because I really do know how this feels. And for me, one of the biggest things, especially after working in personal development and helping a lot of people, for me, it was the mindset and the psychology really of the actual diagnosis and what was going on with me health wise that I couldn't physically do versus what the diagnosis did to me, uh, and what I could actually do, but how my brain was being trained into these unhealthy behaviors. And so that's the big kind of underlying message, I think, which I think is a good point of self awareness, which is that recognition of, okay, yes, I did get a diagnosis. There are certain things that I cannot do physically, but there's also a piece of it which, no, this is how I've trained myself over a certain period of time. Because I was living in California, I was living in Del Mar at the time, and my family said to me, from the kindness of their heart, they said, Simon, why don't you come back to Florida to recover? And being, in my 40s, going back with my family to recover, while that was great for me in some ways, in other ways, it didn't support my recovery because now things were being done for me and I was going into this kind of mental spiral. And so I had to break free from that. So, number one was getting my independence back from moving back with my family. Of course, I don't know where you are and what situation you're in. But in my particular situation, it was very important for me and having a conversation with my family to say, I really appreciate the support that you've given me. But now I think what is best is for me to get my independence back. And really that forced me to then get back into those certain routines, because as an entrepreneur, and especially if you've had a lot of success in the past, you have certain habits, you have certain behaviors, and you have certain things which are staple. If we then change our environment and then we go back into a situation essentially when similar to when we were young, then our brain gets trained, right? We start to get these different beliefs around certain things. There's certain enabling that happens. So that was the first one. The second was starting to learn again. I had given up. And I think for a lot of people, and I've listened to some podcasts around this, which is there's a point that comes where you kind of just give up in a way. And when you do that giving up, what also we start to give up is the education. And so probably in your Audible list or your books list, you were reading, you were educating. And for me, I'd stopped that. I actually looked at my Audible and it was like, oh, you have 7 credits. And I would never have had 7 credits before. And that was really a trigger for me. And so I think I listened to a David Goggins book and I listened to another book, and it just started to fire that brain up again, getting me to start to think differently. And that was an important second step because that activated hope and it woke up that dormant energy. And it's funny because before I got sick, I mean, I spent so many years in personal development. I helped so many people, from those who had been suicidal to top CEOs, and had a program and just kind of recently activated that, right? A program which I help people with. And so I really had to like triple down on my own teachings in a way to be able to shift, right? So there was that environment change. There was the education, starting to get, those positive messages in my mind. And the third one was reconnecting with certain people that I felt safe with. For example, I've been to a Tony Robbins event, Date with Destiny, did a lot of Tony stuff. I was in this platinum program. And there was this particular person who I reached out to and said, hey, I'm struggling. And I think, like, going back to when this was, that move in itself, that vulnerability was so important for me to just reach out to someone, to get someone around me. And then I reached out to someone else who I'd kind of pushed away. They had something going on in their life, and I had to apologize because I wasn't in the right place at the right time. They'd had a death in the family, and I wasn't, I was showing up differently, So I reached out to them, apologized, and then what happened was a group of us got together. We were all in a kind of similar situation, even though they didn't have health issues. We all kind of needed each other. And so every single day, right, we got onto calls and there was this accountability, and it was just brothers together, kind of just, helping, supporting each other. So the environment changed with the education change, and then the accountability change. These three things together were absolutely critical, in the process. And then the next one, which I didn't expect, but it also basically brought in a bunch of other healthy habits, was me starting to play pickleball. And so for those of you who don't know, it's a very old sport, but it's got very popular recently. And so what was happening was I was meditating for 2 hours in a field to get my back posture better, because with this neurological disorder, I was getting a lot of back pain, still do to a certain extent. So essentially, I was meditating 2 hours in the field. I heard the sound of pickleballs. I'd walk past this place every day because I lived next door to the hotel. And I went inside. I learned about open play. I got myself a paddle. And what that did for me in a very short period of time was it got me fit again. It got me around people again because I was isolating. And with pickleball, it's actually more popular now than golf as the way to get deals done. And so then I started to create an event, called it Picklepreneurs, and started to, force myself to start to do events again, because I used to speak, I used to do keynotes, used to do all this stuff, right? So that was absolutely huge. So if you've got pickleball in your area, which I'm sure you have, it's just a great, actually now, this year, especially moving forward, it's just so good for so many reasons, like mentally, physically. It's easy to pick up, low barriers to entry. And also, I don't know what your physical ability is like, but for example, they have wheelchair pickleball. They have, lots of different ways that you can get started. So for me, I was just kind of, I can remember, I was in the gym. I was just kind of lackluster. I was just doing stuff, and I needed more than just being on my own in the gym. I needed people. I needed connection. And in my research that I've done over the years, right, when it comes to performance, super high performance, the biggest thing that we crave as entrepreneurs is connection. And when we don't have that, we soothe. We go to alcohol. I'm fortunate. I stopped that habit years ago. So my alcohol stopped in 2017. I also had addictions to drugs and other things, which I all cleared prior to this condition. I'm so grateful for all of that personal development work that I did prior to me getting sick, because the meditation, the not drinking, I don't know what would have happened if I had those habits, but that is part of, the education and stuff, which I think is really important. We need people around us. We need connection, and we've got to make these micro changes. If there's an opportunity for you, for example, like that pickleball one, right, where you're meditating and then something drops in, you've got to notice that and take action quickly. And then we can start to build up the habits. Then with my condition, I also had to get really serious, especially recently, with inflammation. So removing certain things from my diet, going gluten-free, and really forcing myself to develop that. And now I'm really feeling, a lot better, feeling like my best again, feeling confident. And that intrinsic confidence is so important as entrepreneurs. So I hope that these things, these steps, you're going to take action on one, if not more of them. Post it into the comments. Let me know what support you need. And also, if the accountability piece and the habit piece is something that that you need to kickstart again, then I've put together what's called Super High Performance. This is basically the program which I offered and coach people on prior to me getting sick. And so what I've done is created a free version. Basically, 7 days, you go through a clarity series of questions. That'll help to just give you a lot of aha moments. And then you'll move into a 7-day meditation sequence that will kickstart your habits. And I promise you, by the end of that, and there's also strong accountability, by the end of that, you're going to feel different. You're going to feel mentally different. You start to feel more confident. That fear, that nervous system, which I know a lot of us who have had health crisis deal with, which is this fight or flight, which has been activated. Like regulating your nervous system in different ways is so important, not just meditation, but other things. Check out the link in the description to Super High Performance Community. Go in there, introduce yourself. It's a safe place for you to do that. And let's get you back to being at your best. And let me know what the health condition crisis that you had was in particular. And I will see you on another video. Take care.